RTA, LTB, RHEU, SEC? Wow, so many acronyms. Weiting, why you gotta do this to me? Not to worry. In this video, I will tell you about the basic functions of these four as a landlord operating here in Ontario. Hello everybody, my name is Weiting Bollu. I am the CEO of Openroom. I purchased my first property at 23. My thought at the time was, well, I'd live in my parents' basement and rent out my property until I'm ready to move in. Well, when I rented out my property, I didn't know any of these laws or guidelines. I mean, isn't it just passive income being a landlord? Wrong. No, it's not. And it should not be treated that way. Because I learned the hard way, as many other small housing providers did. In my case, though, I had tenants who decided not to pay rent to the tune of over $35,000. And I landed in court many times. You can see all of my orders on my website at openroom.ca when you research my name, Weiting Bollu. So now it's my mission with Openroom University that I share knowledge of what I wish I knew so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did. All right, let's dive in. Ontario's residential tenancy compliance is based on what's called the Residential Tenancies Act, also known as the RTA for short. It's a provincial law that governs rental housing, defines rights and responsibilities for both the tenants and the landlord parties involved. In Ontario, the lease is actually just the beginning. Once the keys are handed over, the RTA becomes your long-term relationship counselor, whether you like it or not. To protect yourself as a landlord, the first rule is simple. Follow the RTA to the letter, even when your tenant does not. Professionalism is your shield. Everything you say or write may actually be used against you in the future if something goes wrong. And in my case, yeah, things can go very wrong. Tenants may yell, they may threaten you, they may send unhinged texts at 2 a.m. or occasionally cross the line into behavior that would get them banned from polite society. Your job, though? Stay calm, factual, and boring. The Landlord and Tenant Board, which is also known as the LTB, is an administrative tribunal that resolves disputes between residential landlords and tenants, handling issues like evictions, rent payment problems, maintenance complaints, and it's governed by the Residential Tenancies Act, RTA, that we learned earlier. When the tenants are throwing profanities at you, your boring that we talked about earlier too can help you win at the LTB. Boring is good. If behavior, though, escalates into threats, harassment, or spitting, which is never a tenant right, no matter what they say, call the police. But will they resolve the tenancy issue? Rarely. But will it create a paper trail that shows you've acted responsibly? Yeah, absolutely. And remember, that paper trail can be gold later. You want evidence showing that you acted professionally when you bring the dispute to the LTB. Another underused resource is the Rental Housing Enforcement Unit, also known as the RHEU. You can actually contact them to try to resolve issues before you take matters to the LTB. I mean, they won't rush in like superheroes to try to save you, but occasionally they do show up. When you file a complaint with the RHEU, have these pieces of information ready. All right, be ready? So first, your name and contact information, because they do not take anonymous complaints because they can't investigate it. 2, the name and contact information of the landlord you're complaining about. They'll need to know that so you can't hide. And number 3, details of the complaint. For example, the date and time, what happened, and then 4, supporting documentation, for example, notice of entry or relevant emails. If you call in, you may also want to write a letter or email so that you have it on record. Remember that this could actually be evidence in case you want to use it or if you end up in court or at the LTB for it. You should also keep a record of your written requests and any responses to it. Note how long it took your tenant to address your concerns, if they addressed it at all. And check the Residential Tenancies Act, the RTA, to see if your concern is actually an offense. Okay, it's time for our rental trio, the top 3 takeaways of this video. First, law over ego. The RTA doesn't care how reasonable you are. It really doesn't matter. Number 2, boring wins in court or the tribunals. Emotional landlords don't help you win, okay? Number 3, paper trails pay off. So no documents, no leverage. The he said, she said helps nobody. Speaking of which, I've got a template on what an evidence package could look like. Download it for free to prepare for the LTB if you end up there, but I really hope that you don't. You stay out of the LTB. If you found this helpful, please share with a housing provider, a friend, a colleague to make sure they know the basics. Send me some questions in the comments below or hit subscribe to this channel to stay in the loop. All right, thank you so much for tuning in and I will see you next week.